Miami's had a great summer so far, a great spring moving into the summer. What's their perception right now on the recruiting trail as it pertains to those other schools in the state? Your Floridas, your Florida States, heck, UCF with how they're operating in the Power Four now. Where does Miami sit in your mind relative to those schools and how they're perceived?
Well, each year under Mario Cristobal, this is a football team that's improved. They were right there on the cusp of winning the ACC last year. What they did in the transfer portal, how they've recruited on the trail, they're certainly in the discussion and one of the favorites to win the ACC this year. I know Clemson's loaded, and that's a team that is in the conversation to win the national championship. But Miami's a program that they'll have to go through to win that league, and they certainly have a chance to make the college football playoff, which is the goal. And look, they showed already this cycle that they can go out and win elite recruiting battles on the trail. It doesn't get any better than Jackson Cantwell, number one player in the land, 5-star offensive tackle from Nixa, Missouri. And this was a back and forth. I talked to Jackson after he made his decision. Miami led in March. Georgia led in April. Miami got it done in May. And certainly, again, the NIL component, Miami was able to have the infrastructure to win the Jackson Cantwell recruitment. But you're not even in the discussion if you can't prove to Jackson Cantwell that you can't make him a player that has the opportunity to hear his name called in the top 5 of the NFL draft. He thinks Alex Mirabal is the best offensive line coach in the country. The emphasis that Mario Cristobal puts on offensive line play and his track record as a coach with guys like Jonah Williams and Penei Sewell, that resonated with him. And then I asked Jackson Cantwell about did things change? How did things change in May, and how did Miami get it back? And he said they just out recruited everybody. He heard from Miami more than he heard from Oregon, more than he heard from the Georgia coaches. And that was something that was important to him, that personal connection, that daily interaction, getting to know them. And every day, Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal, and other staff members were in contact, making him feel comfortable. So Georgia led for more of that recruitment than Miami did if you talk about the 3-year overall process. And if it was an old school recruitment, he might have committed to Georgia earlier, but it wasn't an old school recruitment. We're in a modern era, and people are making NIL offers, and Miami's not bidding against themselves. They didn't just throw out a number for the hell of it. There were other numbers on the table. There was real estate opportunities. There were all kinds of things that Jackson Cantwell and his camp, his family, the folks at Rosenhaus went through to get to the decision for him to play at Miami. And he's certainly getting life-changing money, as Darren Heitner tweeted about Jackson Cantwell's decision before he announced. But he's also going to a place that he thinks can make him the best offensive lineman in the country for a staff that out-recruited everybody down the stretch.
I'm glad you said it that way, because not just is the NIL, part of it, but like Mario Cristobal, even before NIL was a thing in modern college football, he was still known as like one of the better recruiters before he was a head coach, when he was at Bama, when he was at Oregon. Like, this guy lives and breathes recruiting, and that was one of the big things that Miami fans got excited about when he was coming to Miami to be their head coach. So obviously NIL is going to be a part of it if you're the number one player in America, but to act like that was the only thing, I think maybe folks are kidding themselves just a little bit when it comes to that discussion. But Steve, they landed the top player in America. What's the path for Miami in your mind to end up having the top class in America when National Signing Day rolls around here in December?
Well, they're getting the right guys on campus, JD. Just even look at this past weekend. 3 5-stars on campus, the number one receiver in the land, Tristan Keys. He's committed to LSU out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He's been to Miami twice now since he gave the Bayou Bengals a verbal. Now, he said it's going to be hard to flip him from LSU, and LSU gets the last official visit of the summer, June 20th. But Miami's already shown the chops that they can rally in a recruitment, and he likes his time spent in Miami. The family feels at home when they're around Cristobal, Kevin Beard, and the staff. They like the offense. Was it the number one offense in the country? If it wasn't, it was ranked pretty dang high from a passing standpoint.
Yeah.
Lamar Brown, 5-star defensive lineman. A lot of buzz around LSU and Texas A&M throughout his recruitment, but Miami coming on strong following a visit. Hurricanes also in it for 5-star edge rusher Anthony Tank Jones. They had the number 3 running back in the country per the On3 industry, Derek Cooper. back on campus. That recruitment's going to be a marathon, but Miami's got the shoes to run that race all the way to the end. Georgia, Ohio State. He took an official visit to Auburn, some of the other contenders for him. But Miami, they're in on elite players. They're going to have big-time guys on campus throughout the summer, and they're going to land their fair share. Where does that put them? Will it be top 5? Will it stay in the top 10? I think it's going to be a class that's going to keep them in contention for the ACC championship, but they're certainly on the short list of schools you have to consider with an opportunity to finish number 1.
And that's the thing that you mentioned, I think, at the top of this segment, is as Miami continues to trend upward on the field, feels like that's the only thing that is really missing from Miami being able to be in that top 5, maybe even number 1 class in America when it's all said and done, depending on how things shake out. Like, if they go win the ACC and make the college football playoff, I can't imagine that hurts things when it comes to those final rankings.
Look, when we talk about USC at the top of the show like we did, Miami, these are programs that have had skill players, have had some decent quarterback play. They needed to change the mindset and culture of their programs to compete on a national level, and that's being physical around the line of scrimmage. USC was a powder program for a while. That's what Lincoln Riley is trying to change with that Trojans program, getting tougher around the line of scrimmage. That's how good Caleb Williams was that first year at USC. They make the conference title game with no physicality really whatsoever when comparing them to other championship caliber teams. They lose to Utah in the Pac-12 championship game when Caleb gets hurt. But they've recruited the offensive line well, big bodies, young players that are starting to develop within their program. They've hit big on the defensive line. Jamie and Winfield, a big recruiting win for USC this cycle. In Miami, anytime Mario Cristobal is around, you're going to have like a meathead type of personality to your football team at the point of attack. It is something very important to him to be tough at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball and investing in that, creating your identity around that. And it takes time. We saw Texas do that. Steve Sarkisian has been able to flip a Texas team that was soft for many years, that struggled to get players drafted around the line of scrimmage. Now Texas's defense is flying around and hitting hard and making plays behind the line of scrimmage, and they're getting offensive linemen drafted early in the draft. They're getting front 7 defensive players drafted. They're going into SEC country and winning recruiting battles against national title contenders. USC's doing that. Miami's doing that. Now they got to get the best out of these guys. It's not easy, and Texas is still trying to find 2 more wins itself at the end of the season. But Miami and USC trying to change a culture, a toughness in their program, which gives them a chance to win ball games against good teams at the end of the year.